All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Nintendo Super Podcast. We are joined by What About Nintendo, also known as Brandon. How you doing, man?
Doing good. Been so long since we've done one of these, but I've been waiting.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
been
It's been a while,
I've been
but
wanting to
it
get back
looks
to it.
like everything is actually going now. Hopefully, there's no lag. Hopefully, everything's working. So, for those in the chat, let me know if everything's working right. Um, I think everything's working right. I hope. So, shout out to Josh and Tatsumi Kimishima. How you guys doing? All right. I'm watching myself like 10 seconds in the future, and it's weird. So
Yeah,
I'm
man.
just gonna
Me
focus
too.
on the actual whatchamacallit. You're paying attention to the chat, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm gonna have the chat up regardless, but I just need to what's it where, there we go. Put this up, and then okay, now I'm good. All right, hopefully the stream is working. If the stream starts working, please let me know. All right, I forgot I
Yay.
was gonna do one thing just to make things sound cooler. Um, I forgot to start the audio. So if you guys can hear that, let me know. Um, but I think everything's good to go now. Sup, Vooper? What's up, Alex? Jenny, Jello Sniffer. Thoughts people are here. That's awesome. Okay, so
Yeah.
I guess we need to get the show on the road then.
Yeah.
Let me know how the audio is coming, guys. If the music's too loud or anything, please tell me. I would like this to not be annoying for people. All right. So we actually have a lot to talk about. And this is the first
Yeah.
podcast in a while. We've gone through a lot of transitions, a lot of little things. So hopefully everything's working. I can see the chat now. I can see the podcast is working. Hopefully this format will be more consistent and it'll look good. The camera thing should be switching dynamically between me and Brandon now, and I won't be worrying about that. I can just focus on the conversation. So we have a lot to talk about. But Brandon, is there anything you just want to say before we get the show on the road?
Just that I'm super glad to be back, and hope we have a really good podcast this week.
Cool. Awesome. And thanks, Tatsumi. I'm glad that I got some about the background music. Cool. All right. So, oh, you want the music to be a little louder? Okay, I can up it a little bit, actually. Nope. All right, that should be a tad louder. All right. So let's actually get this. Let's get this show on the road. All right. So we have a lot to talk about, but one of the things I guess we'll start with is the Nindies. Nintendo had their Nindies showcase. They showed a whole bunch of new Nindie games. So for those who don't know, Nindie games is basically a funny name that Nintendo came up with. It is a combination of Nintendo and indie. So it's all the indie developers that have formed a partnership with Nintendo that are putting their games on Nintendo systems, specifically the Nintendo Switch. And what it looks like is that the indie support is getting better and better and better.
For sure.
It's really good, and I'm seeing a lot of games. Some of those games are exclusive to the Nintendo Switch or are timed exclusive. It's becoming a situation where the Switch might be the best platform on the market for indies because the Switch is obviously powerful enough for pretty much any indie game in existence. And not only can you play it at home with your standard traditional controls on a big television, but you can take it on the go, and that's just for indies, that's just like the perfect thing. You know, it's perfect. Like imagine Shuffle Knight. Like it's perfect on your television or portably. So
Yeah.
Nintendo has created this ecosystem for indies that's really good, and they showed off a lot of new indie games that are really exciting. Is there any in particular, Brandon, that stuck out to you?
It's so hard. I literally just watched it today, and I still don't remember the names
Right,
of
there's a
the
lot of
games.
names.
There was this one like platforming elephant game, and I was like, oh, the elephant is so cute. I want my own elephant now.
Oh yeah,
It
I know what
was,
you're
it was
talking about.
I remember that one.
I don't remember most of the names
But there
either.
was
I gotta be honest.
there's so many, and then there was one with the Indian, or like it was the one that was in a part of Earth that they didn't typically showcase. I don't remember. I thought they were all cool.
Yeah,
There's
I
just
mean,
too many.
yeah,
So many.
there's a lot.
They were
There's a
all
lot
like
to show.
timed exclusives.
Right. There's
They're like
one.
most of them were either timed exclusives, or had something exclusive to the Switch, which I just thought was really cool.
Yeah. One that stuck out to me a lot was Morphe's. So it's a shooter, right?
Yeah.
This third person online shooter, right? And it looks really crazy because it almost seems like another version of Splatoon, but in a sense that it's like putting a different spin on the shooting genre, right? And like when you're shooting these different characters, like different proportions of your body will grow. But it's not just like by a little bit, it's two extremes. Like it could be like a whole bunch of different random parts of your body, and you can get to the point where your entire body becomes ginormous, like Attack on Titan, Colossus big, or it can become incredibly small. And the way they do this, it sounds like if you're getting shot a lot, you're becoming smaller, I think. So if you're getting your butt handed to, right, you're gonna get smaller. So what happens is when you're small, you can go into smaller spaces, hide, be more nimble. But when you're bigger, you become a bigger target. So it seems like a really interesting balancing mechanic. But if you're bigger, I can imagine you also have your own strengths as well, because by being larger, you probably can crush people and do different things. So it's just this really weird take on the shooting genre, and I think it has a lot of potential to completely, like, I don't know, just throw everyone for a loop here. And I'm really excited about it. I have my eyes on that game. I think it might go, you know, not viral, but it might sell, it might do really, really well.
Yeah. I was just, while you were talking about that, I was looking up everything that was shown, and I got all the names, and I figured out what I was talking about is Mulaka, and that's like the one in Mexico with it's like a 3D action platformer. It had like these huge rock creatures, and pretty much you like have to, you got to take the power of your ancestors and go around and prove that you're a real Mulaka warrior. And it's like this cool 3D action platformer, and I thought that was really, really cool. It had a really unique art style I really enjoyed. So that's the one I was talking about. But yeah, Morphe's looked really, really cool. And I like how many unique shooters are coming to like the Nintendo systems lately, like with Splatoon and now Morphe's and all this kind of stuff. A lot of unique twists on different things like shooters and stuff. I think that's really, really cool.
Yeah, there's actually a lot of variety with all these different indie games. I can't remember all of them. There's so many. I'm glad you got the name of the list there. There's even that game we were talking about on the Discord a few days ago. It was like this game where all the little characters are like little sausages, like little sausage animals.
Oh yeah, that's Sausage Sports
And they're like
Club.
banging each other against walls and spikes and running around, splatting things. It seems like this really cute, like multiplayer party game that's just like super quirky. And in a way, kind of like the physics of it remind me of Octodad, which I really liked.
Yeah, for sure.
So there's just so much variety with what we're seeing, and you know, I think sometimes people who don't play a lot of indie games, they have this idea that indie games are not really worth your time, they're not that good. That's not the case. A lot of these developers are super high quality, some of the best developers there is. It's just they don't have large budgets. Yeah. Or the idea of an indie developer is they're not someone who's under a big publisher like Capcom, Activision, Nintendo, Ubisoft, Sony, things like that. They're just a single developer rather than a developer that's just one team out of many, many teams. You know, it's a small team, but some of the best games ever have been made by really small team members. So, and there are some indie teams that actually are kind of sizable teams as well. It's just they're just focusing on that one game, and they're not under a bigger house, and it's doing a whole bunch of other high budget projects. So, and like another great game that a lot of people have played is Shovel Knight, and we finally got information on the King Shovel Knight content. It seems like a lot of content was coming. That, of course, there is one thing that kind of bothered me though. A lot of these indie games we're seeing are coming later next year, like early 2018.
It's true.
So I guess it's a little disappointing in a way, but some of them are coming this year. Some of them that look really interesting that I have my eyes on for sure. And well, it's there's between some of the indie games that are coming and some of the other announcements we've gotten for the Switch, like the lineup for the Switch is looking really, really good. So I'm not really, I'm not really complaining. I mean, you know, he can only play so many games in a certain amount of time, so you know that, I mean, it's how it is. But there's a lot. Is there anything else that you noticed that you want to talk about? Morphe's is, I guess, aside from the one game that we're going to talk about that was at the end of the indie show, Morphe's is my indie game of show, or whatever, however you want to say it.
Yeah, well, there was also a really cool, like, multiplayer co-op action RPG they showed off called Nine Parchment, which I thought was really cool looking. So you like go around and you are like these wizards, and you're just going around searching for the 9 parchments. And it's like a co-op RPG, but it's like a real-time thing. And it looked really, really cool. And it had like really beautiful art style. It reminded me a lot of Trine.
Yeah, actually, I think one of the indie games is a Trine from the Trine developers. You're talking about the one where it's like a team of 4 that are playing together. It actually reminds me of this old arcade game where you play it either as a knight, a warlock, or a mage or something, or an axeman, and you would work together as a party and travel through the level and just hack and slash and throw magic and do little dungeon stuff together. And that gameplay was from this old arcade game that I don't remember the name of, but I know tons of people have played it before. That Trine kind of evolved from that idea.
Definitely looked like something I want to get.
Yeah,
like, it looked absolutely stunning. The graphics on that were really good.
Yeah,
I love co-op games. Hopefully, it has online. I don't know if they've talked about that or not, but yeah, that's coming out. Actually, that's coming out this year.
I think it has to be. I think it has to have online because if it's a 4-player game like that, we're gonna have to check. But
yeah, it's made by Frozen Byte, which are the Trine developers. I'm pretty sure.
It's probably online. Otherwise, it would be bad.
I imagine it would be.
Yeah. What's up, Mr. Cams?
Yeah. Hey.
Hey, Jello. So, let's talk about the last game that was in the indie showcase. And I don't even know if it's really an indie game, but it's a game that's showcasing indie games, and that's No More Heroes. It's we finally got a trailer for it. You know, a game developed by Suda51. For those who haven't played No More Heroes 1 or 2, it's arguably one of the best third-party efforts on the Wii. It's a super action-packed, really hardcore, bloody action game that's based off this guy who loves video games and beer and action and combat. He's just like a super hardcore nerd that is badass, knows how to fight, and basically has a lightsaber. So it's a really, really cool action game. And another one is coming to the Nintendo Switch, except this time it looks like different worlds are going to be, different indie games are going to be the worlds you explore. One of which has been confirmed is Miami Vice or something. No, but definitely Shovel Knight is one of those worlds, which is like really, really cool.
Yeah,
I would love to see the Shovel Knight world with the No More Heroes graphics. That would be, I don't know how that's even going to look. I have no idea how they're going to do it.
Know.
But it is confirmed it's going to be like in the standard No More Heroes gameplay. So it's not like it's like 2D No More Heroes. No, it's going to be like that third-person action fighting within these reimagined indie game worlds. I don't know how they're going to do it. We'll find out sooner or later.
Yeah, I actually do not know. I've never seen No More Heroes before. So I'm going in this trailer and I'm just like, this looks cool. Why is everybody so shiny? That was like my only thoughts. Like, this is cool. That guy's daughter's dead. Apparently this guy killed him.
Yeah, he killed him.
And everybody's shiny. Those were my thoughts.
Yeah.
I literally didn't know what to think. I was just like, oh, man, this is
maybe I should stream No More Heroes in a little bit.
Stuff is going down. Yeah, I probably should. But it's like, stuff is going down, and I want to know what, but I didn't.
Right, so it piqued your interest.
It did pique my interest. It was like, I want to know what's going on, so I'll probably check out the other No More Heroes games so I can know what's going on the build-up to when this game's coming out. Do you know it's coming out next year?
Next year. I don't know when next year, but next year.
Oh, okay.
But it's going to be a big deal. It's one of those games that other gamers are going to be looking at and they're like, what the hell? Why isn't this on our system? It's always been on Nintendo, buddy. Sorry. So it's just, it's one of those, this is a hype game. It's a big deal. So I'm pretty excited about it.
And that's the one they were talking about, that they said, because they teased it back in January, right? And the January event, they said there was going to be a game, another No More Heroes game, or another hero with Travis in it or something, or another game with Travis, or they hinted at that back in January, did they not? Pretty sure it was like super.
They hinted at a No More Heroes game, but basically, that's what we're getting, a No More Heroes game.
Yeah.
So, you ready to move on, or is there anything else you want to talk about in regards to the indie showcase?
I don't really have anything to say. I'm just glad how many indie games we're getting. I like the fact that there's so many timed exclusives, and even those that aren't timed exclusives, we're getting like a bunch of content that are not coming to other systems. So I think Nintendo's doing really good with the indies. I think they should keep it up. And yeah, that was a really good presentation.
Yeah, yeah, it was very good, and you hit it right, the nail on the head. The Indies is really filling out the Switch library, but there are other games coming to the Switch that aren't Indies, and the Switch lineup is actually getting better and better. It's starting to look pretty promising, actually. So we're getting NBA 2K finally. We've known about this for a while, but it's actually a sports game that on a Nintendo system. We haven't had like legitimate sports games on Nintendo systems for a while. And we're finally getting it, and apparently it's on par with the competition. So that's what we want, right? We want a system that plays Nintendo games, but also gets the third parties. We want parity, and that's what NBA 2K is offering. Except the benefit is it's on the Switch, so you can take it on the go as well, which makes it really special in that way. And I mean, that's really all there is to say about it. But it's kind of like the bigger picture here, where it's a game that's on other systems that there's parity with, and it's just an example of the ecosystem of the Switch, where it's just a much better situation than the Wii U, the Wii, or the GameCube. Yeah. Well, the GameCube had third-party support, but even then, they didn't have any online games. This NBA 2K is going to have all the features just like Xbox and PlayStation, which is great. Yeah.
Yeah, I was really glad to hear that. I'm not a big NBA fan. I probably won't get the game, but just more games and more variety on the Switch is always great. Especially if it sells well, other third parties will look at that and be like, oh, maybe we should put this game that maybe I am more interested in on the Switch. So the only thing I can say is it's going to be in 30 FPS instead of 60 on the other consoles. But I think for a portable experience, that's kind of something you'd expect. That's just something. It's a slightly weaker hardware. You'd expect some frames to be lower, or resolution, or something like that. And it's not something I don't think that would hamper the game too much. I don't think it's one of those games that has to be in 60 FPS. So I don't think it's a big deal. But I think the main thing is that the actual content is on par. It's got every single mode. It's got all the content that's coming to the other versions on the Switch. And graphics don't really matter as much. I mean, it's just a sports game. You don't play it to have the best graphics ever.
Yeah, but it's also important to know that this is a year one game, so every game that comes out of the system is year one is usually at least a little rushed, right? So things like glitches and pop-in and graphical little things and getting every feature in, a lot of times don't work out for a system's first year. A lot of games aren't as good as they could be because they were rushed to be on the system in the first year. So take that into consideration if you don't think that games do improve for systems, that because developers get used to systems, they have more time with them. So the games that are coming out in the first year of the Switch, expect better performance and better looking games with more modes and such, and less, whatever thing that doesn't work out, expect that to all improve as the future goes on with different games on the Switch. Nevertheless, I also agree, I don't think the frame rate, as long as it's consistent, is not a big deal for NBA 2K. Although there could be some hardcore NBA 2K players that really believe that 60 FPS when they're playing online is a big deal. I'm not one of those NBA 2K players, but I'm sure there's some out there that will, but that's why they may just get it on Xbox or PlayStation. But if you care more about the portable experience of it, you might get it on Switch instead. So, that's okay. But there is another thing about NBA 2K that I think is worth noting. So, it's an interesting little fact that you're going to need to have a micro SD card and an internet connection to play NBA 2K. You don't need to have the internet connection all the time, you just need to install the information for the rest of the game onto your micro SD card. And for some people that be kind of a weird inconvenience, but if you think about it, you kind of have to get, for most systems, a memory card or a hard drive expansion anyways, eventually. So I don't think this is a big deal, and to me, this is the equivalent of buying a disc for the other two systems and having to install the whole game on your hard drive, even though you already have the disc anyways. So it's the same difference, in my opinion. You're going to have to get a micro SD card anyways, but some people may be turned off by that because they don't want to have to buy anything extra. But a lot of micro SD cards are pretty cheap, and you're going to have to get one eventually. But it is worth noting that may be the case for a lot of Switch games in the future, because cartridges are still a little more expensive than discs. So to get the really big 64 gigabyte SD cartridges, that is something not all developers are going to do. So we may have to install parts of the game onto our hard drive or micro SD card in the future.
Yeah, I don't. It's considering how bad it is on the Xbox One, PS4, having installed the entire game. I don't mind it as much when you only have to install a little bit. it's still kind of annoying. You'd think they would just make a bigger, because these aren't one size cartridges. You can adjust them to the size you need for your game. So I don't know. It seems kind of cheap that they would make you download it instead of just paying for bigger cartridges. But I mean, at least we don't have to download the entire game. And most people, I mean, seriously, there's only 32 gigabytes on the system. You're probably going to need to get an SD card eventually. It's not a big deal. It's just kind of a minor complaint. Seems like them maybe being a little bit cheap or lazy. It's just kind of like, you probably could have done, you know, better, but it's not a big deal.
Yeah, I'm not going to lose any sleep over it.
No.
Yeah. So, I haven't gotten a chance to talk about Pokken Deluxe. So I'm talking about it now. I have the demo. I like the fact that there are characters in it that are cool, but I'm not going to pay $60 for a game I already have. I really would like it if there was some sort of discount. Like, if I could get the game for $20-30, I would get it. But I'm not going to shell another $60 for a game I already paid $60 for, like, a year ago. But it has like a few extra characters, which is, I mean, that's it. And those characters are cool, but I just really wish that I could play the game on my Switch without having to pay $60. I'll pay $20 or $30, but not $60. Not again.
Yeah, I wouldn't either. I don't think I'm gonna get the game. I didn't actually even have it on the Wii U, and I don't think I'm gonna get the game. It's kind of fun, but I don't know. It's not that amazing. Maybe it's just not my thing. But I was playing the demo. I was surprised just how bad it still looks. Like, the Wii U version looked really bad. Like, the resolution was, it wasn't even 1280 by 720. It was half of 1280 by 720. So, and then all they did is, now it's just 720p. It's like, it doesn't even have good, it doesn't even look that good. Why is it 720p? Like, the resolution doesn't even look like 720p. Like, it looks like sub 720p. But I don't know.
Yeah.
They say it's 720p, and I guess I have to believe them. But it looks horrendously bad. Like, it still plays fine, but I mean, like, Mario Kart 8, you can play 2 players, 1080p, 60 FPS. The game looks just as good, if not better, than Pokken. ARMS, 900p, 60 FPS with 2 players. Looks just as good, if not better, than the game. So I don't understand why the resolution is low. Something about this port seems kind of cheap to me. Like, they didn't really put that much effort into it. They didn't really think it through that much. They were kind of just like, people like Pokemon, people like the Switch, just put, can't get Pokemon RPG on there this year, just put Pokken Tournament on there, just slap it on there real quick, we'll put a slight resolution bump, and then, you know, a couple more characters that were already in the arcade version that should have been on the Wii U anyways. I would just put those in there and we'll call it good. It's like, what? No. For $60? Why would I want this?
Yeah, I mean, we're in agreement here. So here's the thing. I don't even necessarily think that it's a bad port. I think it's fine. It's just that you get more people buying it if you could offer some sort of discount program for people who had it on Wii U. And there is a way to prove you have it on Wii U. That totally can be done. Will they do it? Probably not. But you would get you would get more people buying the game if you were to offer some sort of discount program for those who had it.
True.
And the game is not that old. It came out last year, so I don't think it's a big deal that they brought it over to the Switch. It's new owners, and they added a few extra characters, which is fine. You know, I mean, it's pretty common practice to port games to different systems to reach a larger audience. I don't think there's any problem with that. I just think that for those who already have the game on the Wii U, they have no way to get those new characters, no way to experience that, and you shouldn't expect them to pay $60 1 year later for 10% more content, you know? Maybe they'll introduce some sort of discount program in the future for those who have it, but probably not. And hopefully in the future there's more awareness for those sorts of things, but who knows? So, but you gotta complain. If you don't complain, they won't know. So I'm complaining.
Then again, I was fine playing another $60 for Mario Kart 8 Deluxe.
Right.
But I feel like that had more new content. It had an entirely revamped battle mode. The best battle mode that's ever been in Mario Kart. It had new characters. It had new carts. It had 1080p instead of 720p, which was a huge visual upgrade. Like, it had a bunch of new stuff. And I feel like Pokken's just kind of like a couple new characters. And it's just like, that's not That's not that
Yeah.
big of a deal.
I would agree that by comparison, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe is a much better port because they did add a lot more content. However, Mario Kart Deluxe is also old. Well, Mario Kart 8 also came out a few years beforehand, so there's more time to change it.
Too.
So they did
Yeah.
have more reason to update it.
And it's not content that you can already get somewhere else either.
Yeah.
Like the content, you can already get that content in the arcade version.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm pretty sure all of it. Or wait, I don't think it. I think all but the Decidueye. I think the Decidueye you cannot.
Right, in the
Other than that,
arcade,
that's just one
the Decidueye is the only exclusive character to the Switch version, but none of those new characters that are for arcade came to Wii U, which really, really bites.
And they came out during the same time. It's not like they made them after.
Yeah.
The Wii U was still a thing back then.
Yeah,
They just didn't. They just held off so they could get a little more money.
I think the major issue is actually, yeah, maybe they didn't want to release DLC on the Wii U so they could get more people to buy that version. That is a valid argument. But also,
So cheap.
unfortunately, the Wii U died an early death, right? So when a console dies like that, there are going to be really silly situations like that. Like when I think back to the Dreamcast, right, for Sega, they were working so hard to make that such a great system, but eventually they had to announce the fact that they were going to cancel support for it. And there were lots of games that were coming to the Dreamcast that eventually were canceled. And you want to know what happened to some of the best Dreamcast games? They were ported over to Xbox, PS2, and GameCube, like Sonic DX, for example. So it's one of those situations where when a console dies, there are a lot of ports and there are a lot of cancellations. They move a lot of projects, and unfortunately, the consumer is hurt because of that. So it's on Nintendo to make us feel better about it. But ultimately, I think they have done a pretty good job with the Switch, so I don't feel that burned. But there are going to be situations like with Pokken where, you know, we didn't really get everything we deserved. So that is the truth. You know, it's on you to decide if you think it's worth buying more Nintendo products after that. But, you know, that's the reality situation. The Wii U failed, so some things are going to suck about it.
It's also just the fact that you knew you would have gotten this content if the Wii U hadn't done as bad, or if they didn't want to make more money on the Switch. It's like Mario Kart, I don't think we would have gotten a new battle mode. I think they would have just left it. Like, it was selling amazingly fine.
Yeah.
Like, the reviews were still great. Like, they didn't need a new battle mode.
Yeah.
They only made that for the deluxe version. Like, you wouldn't have gotten these upgrades if it wasn't for the Switch. But,
based off the way Nintendo's been doing things,
come to the Wii U.
Yeah, based off the way Nintendo's been doing things, they don't usually offer DLC past year one. If they were going to add battle mode, that would mean they would be offering DLC support for another year. So that would be not like Nintendo. Yeah, at least not the way Nintendo's been doing things. That would be a whole new thing. So, not that I'm against I'm not against more DLC for Mario Kart, though. I want more DLC.
Gosh,
I love that game. I've played it to death, and I'd play it even more to death if I got more DLC for it. So, fingers crossed. Probably won't happen. We're probably gonna have to wait a couple years for Mario Kart 9, but we'll see what happens. So,
but Mario Kart 9 could be cool.
Yeah, it would be.
But we don't want to go down that rabbit trail.
Let's not go down that road. No. I mentioned the Dreamcast earlier, and Sonic. So, I want to talk about Sonic Mania. And it's really good. I love Sonic Mania. I think it's a great game. And, you know what? It's a pretty good version of the game as well. Like, apparently there are some glitchy things. Like, it takes a while to press home and sleep mode, which is a really kind of a little weird thing on the when you put in the Switch version. But the great thing about the Switch version is that it's portable. I say that a lot, but you know, I think it really holds a lot of value. Like, I take Sonic Mania wherever I go, and I just play. It's like having like a Super Game Gear, which is like Sega's version of it, like a Game Boy Advance. And also, you know, I plug it in, I play on the television as well. So it's really cool, and it's a really good Sonic game. And it's just kind of unfortunate that we haven't really had good Sonic games like this for a really long time.
Yeah, Sonic's been in a really weird position.
Yeah. Well, they make a Sonic game like every year. It's just they're always doing different stuff. It's kind of hit or miss with them. Like Sonic Colors is good.
Super hidden.
Sonic Colors was good. I like Sonic Rush on the DS. Actually, that one was pretty good as well. So I don't think this one is coming out this year is going to be good. I see a lot of red flags, but we'll see what happens. Hopefully, the reviews turn out to be better than expected.
Yeah, I don't think it will be bad though. I don't think Sonic Forces will be bad.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't look bad. It just doesn't look amazing.
Yeah.
It doesn't look like what I wanted. Like, I really want, like, a Sonic Adventure 3. That'd be really cool.
Yeah.
I didn't really want another just kind of 2.5D Sonic game. It's not really what I'm going for.
Yeah,
but then again, I'm not their main audience either. I don't play much Sonic.
Right.
I've never owned my own Sonic game other than Sonic Hedgehog, which is absolute garbage.
Right.
I usually just play it at like friends' house. Like, oh, you have Sonic? I'll play some Sonic. It's fun.
Mm-hmm.
So
it's I don't know. It's interesting though, because I do think that they have a problem with Sonic. Right. They kind of just whore him out and make different games with Sonic every year. And yeah, they make money with Sonic, but it would be nice to see Sonic get back to a competitive level with the Super Mario games, because back in their heyday,
it used to compete
they
with
were
Mario.
good. Like they weren't as good as Super Mario most of the time to the critical acclaim, but they were close. They were competitive, and Sega now is their Sonic games just don't hold up to those quality standards consistently. Occasionally they come close, but most of the time they don't. And I was just trying to figure out why, and I know a lot of it has to do with, losing a lot of market share and dropping a lot of people from their staff, but they could still make Sonic games get again, and I think it would be really interesting to kind of just research what exactly is wrong with 3D Sonic games, and come and just kind of decide what would be the best direction for 3D Sonic games, because I think you can make a good 3D Sonic game. It's been done before, so I don't know, maybe they should just replicate Sonic Colors, because they did such a good job with that. So I would like to see another good 3D Sonic game, but at least Sonic Mania is a really good 2D one.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. So, have you played it yet, Sonic Mania, or no?
No, I haven't.
Well, I guess I shouldn't expect you to, because you're not that much of a Sonic fan.
No.
But are you a Skyrim fan?
Yeah, I am.
Did you play Skyrim before?
No, I used to watch my dad play Oblivion all the time. And I was like, I want to play this. And he let me play it sometimes, but it was just I was always really young. So I wasn't really,
right, no, I get it.
All the time, but
yeah, I mean, that was 5 years ago, so you were really young then. Yeah, but now Skyrim's coming to the Switch, and apparently it runs really well. It's very well optimized. People are actually very surprised by how well running this version of Skyrim is. And that's interesting, so it almost seems like Bethesda isn't just copying out a Skyrim game. They're actually putting a lot of work, time, and effort into this, which is really interesting. But what makes things even more interesting is that there are now rumors coming out that Fallout is also headed to the Switch. A Game of the Year Fallout 4 edition is supposedly also coming to the Switch. Now, this is a rumor. It's not confirmed yet as far as I'm aware, but we've seen it on some foreign, retailer sites, Fallout 4 Game of the Year edition. And if that's the case, that's awesome, and it's going to show that not only is the Switch a good piece of hardware to put games on, but the relationship between Bethesda and Nintendo is getting better. And that's really cool. If that's the case, I mean, Bethesda games on Nintendo is just something that's never happened. Never happened. They made a Disney game in the 80s or something for NES, and that's the only thing they've ever done for a Nintendo game. It's just kind of crazy that we're seeing Bethesda games on Nintendo. Skyrim's looking really good, and we might be getting Fallout 4 now. Those are the two best franchises. So hopefully this happens, and I can't wait to see what other awesome games we'll be getting from Bethesda.
Yeah. I think Fallout could definitely come to the Switch. I think the Switch is definitely powerful enough to run it. I think it's proved so far that it's powerful enough to run a lot of third-party games that people are just it's the handheld, it can't run that crap, but it's gonna suck. It's actually really good. Just how close the Skyrim is to the remastered PC version is actually incredible. I've seen comparisons. Of course, we don't have any direct feed, but as far as I can tell from some pretty good off-screen screenshots, it's pretty dang close to the PC version of Skyrim Remastered,
right,
which just came out last year, and that game looks really good.
Yeah.
So I think, and apparently from what everybody says, it runs really well. So.
Yeah, exactly. It's running really well.
There's not any frame drops or anything, as far as people can tell. It runs better than Zelda, and according to some people, looks better than Zelda. I don't know if I agree with that.
I don't know if I agree with that either. But it does run really well. It's more optimized for the Switch than Zelda is. That is the case. They rushed Breath of the Wild to get it onto the Switch.
Oh my gosh. Zelda, you can tell, is super rushed.
It was super rushed to get out there. And it still runs relatively well. Yeah, there's some frame rate issues here and there, but in terms of gameplay, it's perfectly fine. But yeah, I can only imagine what they'll be able to accomplish with a game developed with time and effort.
Yeah.
All just for the Switch. We're see, the thing is that for whatever reason on the internet, people seem to think that the Switch is like weaker than everything before, but the Switch is a lot more powerful than the Wii U. Like a lot more powerful than the Wii U.
Yeah, a lot.
And the things that people were able to do on the 360 and the PS3 were still incredible. And those systems are still never maxed out either. The Wii U is stronger than them, and the Switch is way stronger than the Wii U. It's just kind of like you can make any game nowadays run on any hardware that is relevant nowadays. It just comes down to optimization, time, and resources. But anything is possible on any system that's selling now, which is Switch, Xbox, and PS4. So I don't really buy it when people say that. I think people that say they don't really understand how it works. The only reason that Switch won't get a game is because they don't think it's worth the time or investment for whatever reason. Not because it's not powerful enough.
True.
And people don't understand that because a lot of people don't understand the development process. So I'm just telling you that, trust me, it can run. It may not run at 4K or 1080p 60 FPS, but it can run.
Yeah.
So it just comes down to if a developer feels confident that the Switch is going to allow the game to sell. And as the Switch sells better and better and gets more and more third-party games, it's going to get better and better. The lineup is getting better. Developers are warming up to the Switch, and they're starting to develop for it now. They weren't starting when the Switch came out. It takes time to get games on the system, but we're starting to see more and more games come, and things are looking better and better every day.
Yeah.
So, but one thing that isn't looking better necessarily every day is, well, to the naked eye, is these legal battles that are coming for the Switch. There are some companies that are challenging the Nintendo Switch, and apparently Nintendo lost the legal battle. Not about the Switch, right? But they lost the legal battle about the Wiimote controllers and having the gyro sensors within them, right? And apparently there's this company that used like motion controls for like to help people who were ill, like to help them maintain balance or something. And what's weird about this is that they issued this in 2013. The Wii came out
2006?
Yeah. I don't know, maybe I got the date wrong, but they issued it years after the Wii came out. So why would they do that? Why would they do that? Because they're just shopping for money. They're not trying to do anything. And apparently they won. So they're going to get millions of dollars for profit. However, Nintendo's going to appeal that, and that's happened actually multiple times. Nintendo has lost other legal battles before and has appealed them and then won afterwards. I think a lot of times the judge is like some old person who doesn't understand video games at all, so they make a really poor judgment on that situation.
Yeah, I see that.
It's kind of weird why this is always happening. And now this recent legal battle thing that we've heard about is with Game Vice. So it's this device that if you can plug into tablets. For the record, there's a whole bunch of devices that you can plug into tablets to simulate video game controls. But they're trying to sue Nintendo about the Switch, saying it's very similar. It isn't. They're probably going to lose. It's not. And a lot of people get concerned about this, though, because the thing is, we hear about these different things, and some journalists and sites might like really try to sensationalize these legal cases, but they happen all the time, and most of the time they lose. And whenever they do win, it's usually a settlement where they just get a portion of what they're asking for, never whatever they're actually asking for. And then Nintendo usually appeals it and wins anyways, and they don't have to pay anything. So there's a reason Nintendo and Sony and Microsoft come up with patents, so these things don't actually happen. It just so happens a lot of companies try to make money. Occasionally they do win and get some money, though, so that's why they keep trying. But anyone who's actually concerned that Nintendo is going to have to stop making Nintendo Switches or anything like that, you don't have to be. These legal battles are just, for the most part, formalities, and Nintendo deals with it with their legal teams and usually ends up fine. And they also have a lot of money, so even if they lose, they still be fine.
They tried to sue for, I think it was $144 million. Then they got 10. What is $10 million to Nintendo? They're a $1 billion company.
Yeah.
$10 million is chump change. I mean, they make that every day.
Right.
Essentially. Like every week, they make $10 million more. I mean, it is nothing to them. But it's like, it's not going to damage Nintendo. It's just kind of like, that's so stupid.
These people are literally doing it for the money. They're doing it for the money.
Yeah,
They
they're not
don't
gonna-
actually think Nintendo stole anything from them. They're just trying to fool old judges who don't understand the video game industry to make a few $1,000,000. And if you're desperate and you don't have any ethical code, hey, you know, I can see why you would do it. But I think they're dumb and bad people, but most of them don't actually succeed. So whatever.
Game Vice is so dumb. It's like, this is nothing close to the product you have. Nothing. It's not. It doesn't even hook on the same way.
No tablet on there.
It's a completely unique locking mechanism. Comes off on completely different than what Game Vice has. So it's like, you might as well sue. Nintendo might as well have sued PlayStation for having a joystick on their controller because they had one first. Like, it's not the same. You can't do that. You can't sue just people like, oh, you have a D-pad. They sue you. It's like,
Right.
it's not the same.
Yeah, but in
It's
case
just a generic thing.
in case any of you guys are worrying, Josh, I saw that you said that you were worried about Nintendo running out of money. They will not run out of money anytime soon. Nintendo's very smart about their business practices. Even when they have a failing product, they still find ways to make money from it. They have lots of money. They're not as big as, say, Sony, but they're a lot more efficient with their gaming division, and they always profit, and they are going to be completely fine. They're going to be fine. There's not really any concern about their longevity. Only people who don't know. But the only time you actually hear about people worry about Nintendo going out of business are people who are just saying that, who don't really know what the hell they're talking about. Just in case that was a point of contention, just putting that out there.
Yeah.
So, I actually want to start...
I think I saw something... Oh, hold on, let me say something real quick. I think I saw something that said it was like, it would take Nintendo 50 years of making no profit to go broke or something like that. It's like they could operate for 50 years with no profit and go and before they go broke.
Where'd you see that?
I don't remember where, and I don't remember if that was exactly what. That's what I remember hearing.
Right.
Somebody put out the statistic. It was pretty high. It was a certain number of years. It was like 20 to 50 or something. It was really high. I just remember it was like no profit and they could survive for that long.
Even if it's not 50, even if it's like 20 or 10 years, that's still fine. They are so... Here's the thing. Like, Sega went out of the hardware business, but they had to fail. They screwed up so hardcore. Like, they basically launched like 4 systems in the span of like 5 years, and they all failed. Yeah. And they made no money on all of them. Right? They just hemorrhaged money. Yeah. And even after that, the Sega was still around for quite a while. So it only kind of like it just no. Nintendo has always been doing way better than them. They're way bigger and stronger than them, and they never have failed so consistently and lost so much money like that. Even when they do have a bad system, they're really effective about the money.
They were making profit on the Wii U. Because the game sold well. Like, the system did not sell well. A lot of the games, the first-party ones, were selling on par with some of the Xbox One, PS4 games. It was like, I don't know, it was weird. It had a very high, very low install base, but a very high attach rate for all their big games. Like, Mario Kart 8 sold 8 million units.
Yeah.
13 million unit. Like, there's only 13 million Wii U's, but it sold 8 million copies of Mario Kart 8, so they were still making a crap ton. They were making a lot of money. Like, it wasn't as much as Xbox or PlayStation 4, but it was getting there. It was they were actually competing still.
But, the Wii U in terms of profits was, it wasn't great, but it was not as bad as some might think. And when you count the 3DS and then all the other things Nintendo has with their branding, they're fine. And they have lots of money saved up over the years. And even when companies have reported losses year after year after year after year after year, they still go because these companies are huge. They have tons of money in the bank. And when you have a brand populated so high, you can always turn around at any given point. So there is nothing to worry about. And right now the Switch is doing really well. The 3DS is doing really well. Nintendo's breaking all sorts of records. The Switch has an incredibly high install rate. Like, this is one of the highest install rates we've ever seen for a system. It's pretty crazy. The Switch is breaking a lot of records. The only thing Nintendo needs to do is meet demand. And apparently, actually, I heard that there are some rumors suggesting Nintendo, even though there were a lot of reports suggesting Nintendo was going to struggle to meet demand and hit their 10 million forecast, there are now some people suggesting that they might exceed that because they figured out the problems and might hit 18 million.
Yeah, that's what I was hearing. 18 million,
which is really good for like the first fiscal year, for first full fiscal year. That's obscene. If they can actually do that.
That's
yeah, even 10 million is actually really good for the record. If they start off with 10 million, that's great. Yeah. But if it hit 18 million, well, I mean, we could be looking at one of the best-selling consoles of all time. If you start with that much in the beginning, that's really, really good. Yeah.
Especially when you consider the Wii U sold 13 million, 5 years?
Right.
So if they reach more than that in just one, that's I mean, they're already success.
Guaranteed within 2 years they will outsold the Wii U. So that's great news.
Within 3, they might outsell the Xbox One.
Yeah, I don't think they'll. So here's the thing.
Xbox One at like 30, 40?
I don't even know. All I know is it's not doing well compared to the PS4.
It's not even in the top 3.
No, it's not selling. And the thing to consider right now is not so much how much they've sold in the past, it's how much they're selling now. So right now, between the 3DS and the Switch, I'm pretty sure Nintendo has the majority of the market share. So even though the PS4 is selling well, it's not. They sold a lot previously, but right now Nintendo is doing better than Sony. So for this year, Nintendo is the market leader. I haven't checked the numbers of who's the market leader from last year, but if you count both handheld and home console, Nintendo is usually actually the market leader. So they're a lot better than a lot of people realize. But let's start talking about some game situations. Actually, we're already kind of talking about Nintendo versus Sony, so this is actually kind of a decent transition here. But we've heard that Final Fantasy 15 may be coming to the Switch. Actually, it's pretty much all but confirmed. But the point of contention here is that we don't know what version of Final Fantasy 15 is. Is it going to be the Pocket version, or is it going to be a legit version, or is it going to be something else altogether? I think a lot of journalism sites have been really paraphrasing that interview about this potential Pocket version. In fact, I'm pretty sure if you actually read it clearly, right? IGN asked the question. They brought up the Pocket version. It wasn't like they brought Square brought up that they may do it for Pocket. No, IGN was looking for that answer. Okay, they're looking for that answer because they like negative publicity, because negative publicity usually gets you more hits. That's the truth. So they phrased it in a way to make it seem like they're suggesting that the Pocket version was the likelihood. But in actuality, if you read it clearly without any sort of bias, he was actually just paying pittance to the question, saying, anything is possible, we have to look at the market and see what they actually would want. And if Square Enix actually knows what they're talking about, they look at the market for Switch owners, they will realize that if they release Final Fantasy 15 Pocket, it will bomb. It will not do well.
Yeah.
What we want is something along what the PS4 version got, and I'm pretty sure the guys in Square know that. They know that. So I'm not saying the Pocket version isn't coming, but I think it's highly unlikely. So, if it happens, you can unsubscribe. Yeah, but it will. It will not happen. I'm willing to stake your subscription on that. Trust me, if Final Fantasy 15 Pocket is not going to come to Switch, we're going to get Final Fantasy 15, it's going to be, maybe it won't be the version that came out for PS4, but it's not going to be the Pocket version either. That much I'm pretty confident about.
No, I don't think they're going to bring out the Pocket version, especially since it's going to be, as far as I've heard, it's going to be episodic on the mobile. So it's only the first episodes coming out this year. So they'd have to wait till 2018, late 2018, 2019 to release the Pocket version of Final Fantasy 15. There's no point. Nobody wants it. They don't want it now. No. They're not going to want it then, especially not then, because they'll probably announce the next Final Fantasy by then, or some kind of spin-off to Final Fantasy 15, or some kind of extra thing. It's going to be old news. It's already old news. It's already people are like, we didn't even ask for this. No, we don't even want this now, much less in 2 years.
No,
nobody's gonna want this.
We won't. It's not going to sell well, and the guys at Square know that. So they're going to assess the market. By assessing the market, they're going to be like, this is never going to sell.
I don't think Final Fantasy 15 would be that hard to run on the Switch.
It was hard to run on the PS4. They're going to have to make some serious modifications. That doesn't mean it can't happen, but they just have to change around. They have to change around a lot. It's not going to be the exact same game.
Xbox One though. It did run on the Xbox One, And they said the Luminous engine itself didn't run that bad on the Switch with no optimizations. Absolutely no optimizations, and they ran almost everything. And
That's interesting. I didn't hear that, actually.
Yeah, that's what I heard. Like, they just didn't run amazingly, but they said they also didn't do any optimization.
Right, so if you optimize it for a while, maybe you lower the resolution, it'll be fine. It'll run. So
I don't think it would be that hard. Honestly, I don't even think the game looks that much better than Xenoblade Chronicles X. I've compared both. I don't think the game looks that much better. I think the main issue is I think the image quality itself, like the resolution and like image quality, overall image quality is better. Like
I think the animations and I think are very good. I think the overall world is more dynamic feeling.
I don't think the graphics are that much better.
The scope of Xenoblade X is obviously its best trait, and that's still. I mean, I'm not gonna, Final Fantasy 15 has great scope, but it's not like it's not one of the largest open world games ever either. So
no, I seriously don't think the environment looks any better than X. Mm-hmm. Like as far as graphical quality of the actual environment itself, it doesn't really look any better than X.
I mean, we're also at a time where a lot of games that are high budget just look really good regardless. So It's gonna look good. I'm not worried about it. I hope it comes. We'll see.
I don't think they'd have to do that much downgrade. I don't even think the Switch is that much weaker than the Xbox One.
It's not that much weaker.
Really not. It's not that much weaker.
It's not.
I don't know what the Xbox One... Do you know what the resolution the Xbox One ran it in?
I don't.
I could look it up real quick. Because that could be a big thing, because if it ran in 1080p of the Xbox One, it would probably run pretty easily at 720p on the Switch.
Yeah. But you have to take portability into consideration, though.
It's not that big.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, some people will point out, like, oh, but there's twice as much RAM. Yeah, but the RAM on the Switch is better than the RAM on the Xbox One. It's DDR4, not DDR3.
Mm-hmm.
So, and really having faster RAM is much more important than having more powerful RAM.
That's another thing, right? Like, a lot of people saw how much RAM the PS4 had versus the Xbox One they were coming out. It was like, oh my god, blah, 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 it's so much better. But like you gotta take speed into account as well. It doesn't tell the whole picture. So, and then there's also EDRAM as well. Like there's RAM and then there's like side RAM. So there is it's not that simple just looking at specs. So I don't think it's a big deal. But just to answer one question from Josh, my favorite Nintendo game is, I don't know, I like a lot of them, but Metroid Prime, Resident Evil 4, all that's technically a Nintendo game, Mario 64, Ocarina of Time, there's a lot of really good ones. But Ocarina of Time, Majora's Mask, Metroid Prime, those three are really high up on the list.
Nice. I just looked it up and it runs at 900p on the Xbox One.
Okay, so I could see 720 on the Switch.
I think there might be some visual downgrades but in 720p, and then a few more downgrades. But I don't think it'd be that.
720p, 30 frames per second.
If I had 720p on the Xbox One, I'd be like, oh yeah, it's not gonna run on the Switch without huge upgrades. But the Xbox One really isn't that much more powerful, like at all.
Right, but also you gotta take optimizations into consideration. Maybe they can optimize it better. Maybe they can actually technically get it at a higher resolution if they optimize it better. That's not impossible. Yeah. It's just usually not the likely situation.
Yeah.
So
Square has made several games for the Switch. By the time
they really liked it. I'm actually really excited for Octopath Traveler. I want to get my hands on that game. I think it looks really cool. Yeah, the Square's behind the system. It's just the thing is, like, to get a major game on the system, it's going to take time to develop for. So that's why we've only seen like 2D games or 2.5D games, because those games are a lot easier to port and develop very quickly, as opposed to something like Final Fantasy 15. So, but if Final Fantasy 15 is probably coming to the Switch, then I think that says good things about a potential Final Fantasy 7 remake eventually coming to Switch as well. And that's awesome. So again, it's just looking like the Switch is having great third-party support, or at least improving third-party support. Not necessarily great, but it's getting there.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. So but a lot of these Final Fantasy games are coming out on Sony first, right? And we were talking about, of course, if you read the title, it's kind of about Sony versus Nintendo, right? So there are some games that Sony has supposedly stolen from Nintendo by paying the developer to not put it or a publisher onto the system, onto the Nintendo system. Like, for example, apparently the Monster Hunter World would have been able to come out on the Switch, but we don't. This is a rumor, right? But supposedly Sony paid out Capcom to not put the game on the system. And apparently we also are hearing about Secret of Mana also not coming to Switch as well, right? That secret, I think it's a Secret of Mana remake. Neither of those games are coming to the Switch, and the speculation is that Sony is paying up the developers to not put it on the Nintendo system. And some people may think, oh, why would they do that? Well, the truth is that Sony and Nintendo have been very competitive with each other, and now that the Nintendo is back in business with the Switch, they are stealing away Sony's market share, and Sony is getting very, very competitive with them, especially in the Japanese market. Hence why Monster Hunter World, again, it's going to be huge in Japan, Secret of Mana, again, it's going to be huge in Japan, are both supposedly being bought out by Sony because Sony is trying their very best to not lose their market share to Nintendo in Japan. So they are duking it out over there, and I think Sony is doing this, which is really interesting to me. I would love to see Sony and Nintendo just go all out, console wars again. Like, I would love to see them really go hardcore against each other, start marketing against each other. Back like in the early '90s with Sega versus Nintendo, or the mid '90s with Sony and PlayStation and N64. I think that would be really cool because when companies are competing against each other, they bring out their very best games. They do even better than you would think they could. Yeah. So I'm actually excited about that. And I think they're being really competitive with each other. What do you think? Do you think these rumors are holding water, Brandon? I know I kind of went on a little bit of a rant there.
Yeah, I think Sony's scared. I think they're scared very much. Just looking at the numbers of the Switch sales, like they're trumping the PS4 hardcore.
Right now they're doing a lot really good.
Even with the massive supply constraint, they're destroying the PS. It's destroying the PS4 in Japan, and people are speculating if Nintendo can get their stock issues out of the way, it could pass the PS4 in Japan in less than a year. Some people are saying, like, wow, it could be bad. Like, Nintendo is just storming the gates of Sony and like just banging down their doors. They're just stealing up their market share, and I think Sony is right to be scared. And I think just the amount of competition, as you were saying, it will breed more stuff. Like, a stale marketplace is a bad marketplace for consumers. It's really, really good for producers because they get a lot of money and they can just do whatever the hell they want. Nobody will care. But for consumers, like, this is what we want. We want them to be competing because it's going to bring out the best of both.
So, for example, when companies are competing against each other, we see the best of them. So, here's a great example. You guys remember the Sega, or maybe a lot of you don't remember, you may have not even been alive, or you were babies, Sega versus Nintendo during the early 90s, Super Nintendo versus Sega Genesis. They went hardcore against each other. So what happened as a result? The Super Nintendo is hailed by most Nintendo gamers as the best Nintendo system ever. We saw games like Super Mario World, A Link to the Past, Metroid Prime, Donkey Kong Country. These games are considered to be some of the best of all time. We also got Chrono Trigger. The Super Nintendo has so many classics on it. The SNES Classic has 20 games that are 20 of some of the best games ever made, and the list is not even complete. There are other games that should be on that system. But that all happened. Not all of it, but it was even better than it ever could have been because Nintendo was pushed. They had their backs against the wall. They're like, oh, we might lose market share. So they put more money into bigger resources, bigger projects, make the best games they can, and they try to compete. That's what happens when you're going to lose market share. What do? You try harder, bring out greater quality content, better buys, better deals, which is all better for the consumer. So if Sony and Nintendo start duking it out and they're competitive with each other, we're going to see an incredible thing. Which brings me to another really interesting topic, at least to me, right? I've been wanting to talk about this for a while, and that's this Sony conference that's been announced for the 19th. Now, I don't know if any of you guys follow Super Metal Dave. He's a YouTuber, he doesn't put as many videos as before, but he's proven himself to have inside sources. And apparently, there are going to be two really huge announcements that are going to happen this year. One of them, according to him, supposedly is going to be happening during this Sony conference, and it's going to have huge ramifications for Nintendo. And he said he thinks a lot of us are going to be really, that there's going to be a lot of arguments. It's going to be a very huge kind of internet trollsy fight. And then Nintendo supposedly is going to have another really big announcement of their own later on this year. This is what he's saying. It isn't necessarily true, but I think it is true. I think there's something big going to be happening here, and I wonder what it is. I think Sony and Nintendo are going to start, you know, they're holding back. They got other cards up their sleeves, and I just can't wait to see what it is. What do you think, Brandon?
Yeah. I think that's... gosh, I wonder what it could be. A lot of people are suspecting it to be some kind of Sony handheld, like a Switch-like
like a
Sony
PS4,
machine.
like a PSP4 Go or something.
I'm like, please be that. Please. Like, I don't even care about what the system is. I don't care if I never want to buy it. Just make it to put pressure on Nintendo for the Switch.
Right. We don't want them resting on their laurels. We want them to continue
Right now,
to
they're all like,
fight.
send back. We have the most unique console. Nobody else is like us. We're going to get sales. But if Sony comes out with something that's similar, they're going to have to keep making the Switch better and better and better. At this point, they could just keep the Switch how they want it, you know, for like any amount of time. If Sony comes into this, they're going to have to step it up, and that would be really good for us Nintendo fans. But I'm also a big Sony fan as well, so that could be something that interests me, and I might buy that as well. So I might have two really awesome portable systems.
So here's my speculation on this, actually, right? So I actually believe that I think the most likely scenario is that Sony is going to unveil their successor to the Vita or some sort of PSP4 Go that will directly compete with the Switch, right? But here's the thing. Supposedly Nintendo has their own big announcement coming. And I've heard some industry insiders that they won't say what is going on, but they've heard about what Nintendo's going to do, and they've said they don't know what Nintendo's thinking anymore. They don't get it. So this is my interpretation of that. A lot of people in the industry, or at least the journalism part of the industry, are like, just to treat the Switch as a handheld. But the truth is, the Switch is a home console and a handheld. And, you know, it's Nintendo. It's a system where Nintendo's putting all their biggest games. So, in a way, it is their home console, but it's also portable. So, bearing that in mind, if Nintendo considers it their home console, they may actually still have a portable option coming out soon. So, my speculation is that these people are talking about, who know what Nintendo's doing, are saying that, oh, what they don't even know what direction Nintendo's heading in. That's because I think Nintendo's going to actually come out with a portable system that may directly compete with whatever this PSP4 Go will be that's going to be announced at the the Sony conference. That's just all speculation. We don't know what they're announcing, but I think Nintendo's going to eventually have the Nintendo Switch. They're going to have the Nintendo Switch Mini or whatever, which is going to be their new portable system, and probably some sort of 4K dock as well. That's what I think is going to eventually come out for the Switch for the next year or two.
I really hope they come up with a 4K dock soon.
I don't think it's
so
going to be
many
that
games.
soon.
I'm like, should I get this third-party game on my PC or should I get it on the Switch? I'm like, portability is awesome, but I'm not one of those people who goes out all the time. So it's not really that great for me all the time. It's just very specific instances. So I'm like, should I play it in 1440p at 60 FPS on my awesome computer? Should I play it in, like 720p to maybe 1080p at like 30 frames per second on my Switch? I'm like, I kind of want to buy it on Steam now. So it's like, but if they came up with a 4K dock, I'd be like, well, hell yeah, I'm buying it on the Switch. I get the great graphics and I get portability. What's there not to love? So I really hope they start coming out with.
Yeah, I actually want to respond to Hooper. So, talking about $300 consoles being too expensive for Pokemon fans, I agree. Actually, and that's why Ultra Sun and Moon is coming out this year. But I think that the Switch is going to be the system Nintendo's going to go with in the future, and Pokemon, it's going to be a mainline Pokemon game coming out for Switch next year, probably holiday season, right? But like I suggested, they could come out with a Switch Mini, which is cheaper but doesn't have all the features like you can like being able to plug into the console and stuff, but it does play Switch games. So that might be like a $200 model that you can also play Pokemon on. But, if you want the better version, they can plug into your television and have motion controls and such, you buy the $300 Switch. And Nintendo might also announce a 4K dock. So if you want games to be even better, like a 1440p 60 FPS, maybe they'll have a 4K dock as well. So we don't know what we're going to show off, but just some speculation here, right? So what if Sony's like, oh, we're so awesome, here's Uncharted 4 Remake Mastered on PSP4, go, and it's super cool, right? Then a month later, Nintendo's like, oh, okay, here's Nintendo Switch Mini, it's awesome, it plays Switch games, you can take it everywhere, $200, buy it next year. Oh, it's going to have Pokemon, here's a trailer for Pokemon. And then they're like, oh, one more thing, 4K dock, so if you don't like your 720p games, play them at 1440p 60 FPS, also coming out next year. So Nintendo could do that. Will they do that? I don't know, but I do think the Switch Mini is coming to cater to those Pokemon fans that don't want to buy an expensive system. Yeah. And I think it'll launch next year holiday season along with normal Switch and Pokemon. Those are my thoughts on that.
I think if Sony does come out with something like a really good handheld that competes with Nintendo, I think they're going to be forced to do things like the Switch Mini and the 4K or 1440p or, just a better dock. And I think that's really, really good because those are the things I really want. Like, I just really want a new dock because I'm happy with my Switch as far as the handheld goes, but I'm a little disappointed at times at what the console side can do. So if they came out with a dock, it'd be perfect if they came out with a better dock. So
right.
I think it would fix a lot of people's issues. And coming with a Switch Mini, I mean, it could easily, just no dock, maybe not detachable Joy-Cons, but plays all the same games, $200 easy. I mean, it would lower the price a lot. So they'd still be making a profit on that. So
do you think they could go with a 4K dock for $199.99? Do you think that makes sense? Like maybe it has an extra graphics processor in there with extra RAM.
Yeah, they could. $200 though.
It seems a little steep, right? But like,
I think that's a little steep. I don't know if they would quite go to 4K or not.
Right. I honestly, I would be okay with 1440p 60 FPS. If it guaranteed,
1440p looks really good. I play games on 1440p on my computer. They look absolutely incredible. So,
yeah. Is 1440p considered 2K?
It's like right there. I think it's like 16 something.
Okay.
2K is actually not a widescreen resolution.
Okay.
It's weird. So
right.
it's pretty much 2K.
I'm just curious how if Nintendo were to go for a 1440p 60 FPS dock, how would they market it? What would they call it? Would they just call it like Switch Plus, or would they just call it, I don't know, dock?
Yeah.
Dock Plus.
I don't know if they maybe would be forced to do 4K. Or not. I don't know. It just wouldn't look as good in the box. It depends. I wonder if people would pay an extra $50 to $100 just because it says 4K. And
well, I mean, okay, think of it this way, right? If there's listen, hear me out. If there's a market to get Sony fanboys and Xbox fanboys who already bought their $400 PS4s and Xbox Ones when they came out, to only buy a whole new PS4 Pro and Xbox One X just so you can play your games at 4K. Why can't Nintendo do that for half the price, but you keep your same system?
Yeah.
I
think that would work.
You understand what I'm saying? Like, it's if you think about what Sony and Microsoft did, this would be a much cheaper solution, but the same thing.
I think that they could market that really well. They could say 4K for only $200 instead of and they could poke fun. It could be back like the Sega does what Nintendo don't. Kind of thing. Like,
yeah.
Oh, they're charging $400, $500 for 4K. You can do 4K.
You can play $200 for 4K or something. Yeah.
That's the price.
If they could squeeze out a $149.99, that'd be interesting. But I mean, 4K, like true 4K, 60 FPS, that's a lot of hardware to put into a dock. Keep in mind that the normal dock is selling for $90. So.
Yeah, but they gotta be making a killing on that. There's no way the normal dog is worth $90.
Well, I think you might be underestimating the technology that's in the dock. Like, yeah, there's nothing super powerful in there, but that ability to seamlessly transition between TV and non-TV all has to do with that springing, micro connection right there, and then it has the USB connections. And the USB ports and the plastic, and then it comes with the HDMI cable as well. And an HDMI cable, that's at least $10 right there. So the plastic makes it cost money. I don't know. Maybe it's a little overpriced, but I I think it's a little overpriced. I don't think they're making a killing on it. Maybe they are. Maybe you're right. I'm just, I'm overestimating how much that thing costs. But
From
I
what
think I don't know.
I don't
I'm not
remember
sure.
the exact numbers, but from what like some industry insider was saying, it only cost them, I think it was like $60 to make a dock, and they're selling it for $90. So they're making a pretty good amount of money.
Yeah. It's funny.
They're probably making $15
Nintendo does what Sony ain't. That's funny.
Yep.
That would be interesting. I don't think Nintendo would ever do that, but if Nintendo pulled like a 180 and did what Sega did to them, it would be interesting.
Yeah.
It's interesting because Sony has played the marketing card where they use the marketing to make themselves seem really awesome. They did that with the PS2. I mean, they didn't need to. They had DVD players back then. That was huge, and they killed the Dreamcast. The PS4 used marketing to essentially basically destroy the Xbox One. Xbox kind of screwed themselves over, but Sony was just like, "Yep, we won." So I would like to see how they market themselves against the Switch. What's interesting though is that I think simply by buying out some of these games that, like, for example, Monster Hunter World, when people heard it's not coming to Switch, the conversation came up, is the Switch even powerful enough to run third-party games? And that's the thing that's kind of people are talking about the Switch, the biggest potential issue. Can it run the games? So when Sony steals away games like Monster Hunter World, people start talking about that again. So in that way, that's like smart marketing in and of itself, simply by buying up other games that kind of help to build that narrative. I'm just curious how they're going to compete with each other. I can't wait. I'm gonna get my popcorn ready and just watch this show.
Yeah. I really hope they do start doing digs. Like, just Nintendo's like, if they come with a 4K dock, like you said, $200, or even if they charge $250, it's still half the price of an Xbox One X.
Yeah.
It's still $150 less than a PS4 Pro. They could totally market that. They could have a new slogan, 4K for half the price. Like, that's a good slogan. And they could totally just be like, you think 4K costs this much? No. You can play 4K on your Switch for super cheap.
Yeah.
So
And I mean, the Switch has a huge opportunity to become this mainstream device. It's possible they can do that. I mean, it's becoming that. If they hit the 18 million mark by the end of the year, by the end of the fiscal year, that would be obscene. Because the second year, I don't think they have a price drop the second year, especially if they come out with Switch Mini, right? But Switch, if you count Switch Mini, which would be at $200, then you count the dock, and it's having third-party support, people are just going to buy this thing in droves. So that's the smart thing about the Switch. The way it's structured, they can have multiple formats, kind of like what iPhone does. They have the iPad, iPad Mini, the iTouch, all these different things are almost the same device, but slightly different. You can have Switch Mini, Switch with a 4K dock and such. So Nintendo has an opportunity here to really just explode. Explode with profits and market share, and it's kind of crazy. Will they do it? We'll see. They got to hit that market share. They have to keep up the games. They got to market really well. And also Sony could slow them down. They're trying. They're already trying. We're starting to see Sony, whoa. We won 2 years ago. We're not letting you take this. But we'll see what happens.
I wonder if they would come out with a 4K, like a bundle for only $400, because it wouldn't come with a normal dock, so you'd be able to get it cheaper. If we're thinking that a 4K dock would be $200, that's $200. If you already own a Switch, then it's $500. But that's including a $90 worth of dock. So potentially they could come up with a 4K bundle that doesn't come with a normal dock; it comes with a 4K dock, so it's that much more cheaper. So they could price it $400.
Theoretically speaking, that sounds feasible.
I think that would be a really good idea.
That's a really good idea. I thought about a bundle, but I didn't consider the pricing of it.
Yeah, I was just thinking about that. I was it would be $500.
I think it would have to be $400 to appropriately compete with the competition.
Oh yeah.
Because the thing is,
you can't price that at $500 because even if 4K dock, there's no way it's going to be as powerful as Xbox One X.
Right. Well, not an Xbox One X. No, but definitely in 4K dock mode, it would be better than a better than a PS4 and a normal Xbox One.
Yeah, it'd be close. It'd probably be close to a PS4 Pro.
Right. I would prefer it if they were,
4.2 teraflops?
But here's the thing, I'd prefer it if they were to do 1440p 60 FPS. You know, none of this checkerboard crap. Just, you know, every game is upscaled to 1440p 60 FPS. You know what I mean? Like, that would be way better, in my opinion. Just a solid thing. The only problem is if they were to do that, then they can't call it 4K dock. They have to call it something else.
Yeah. I think the market is just ready for 4K. I don't think they would see the upgrade as big enough. Even though, in my opinion, 1440p would be fine. But we're not the mainstream stupid consumer doesn't know what we're talking about and just sees 4K at a box and buys it. Right,
4K is the marketable term, right? So they might...
Nobody wants 1440p. Everybody wants 4K because it's super awesome. Even though on most people's TVs, it's not going to look much better than 1440p anyways.
Mm-hmm.
Unless you have like a big, like I have a 55-inch TV, so it would look better on mine. But most people, I mean, they just buy whatever's cheap.
Yeah.
So, like, it's not gonna be that big of a difference. But do they know that? No, they just know that this one says 4K and this one says 1440p, and 4K is cooler.
Right.
Especially since 4K sounds like it'd be.
Well, I mean, what if they're able to? What if they just think of a name that just sounds super cool that doesn't say 4K, but it just
2K.
but implies, you know, better graphics or something, you know? I don't know what I don't know what they call it. Maybe they call it like, I don't know. Maybe
they could call it Quad HD. That sounds cool. That's the actual term for 1440p is Quad HD. They could call it the Quad HD dock. Then it sounds just like 4K. It's got 4, you know, Quad 4, and you know, they can call it the Quad.
The Switch Quad or Quad dock or something. Yeah. Or the Quad 4X they could call it 4X.
Could.
Yeah, they could call it 4
times better than 720p. They didn't say it was 4 times better than 1080p. It's 4 times better than 720p. But they don't know that, do they?
Yeah. They could call it the 4X. Yeah, that's possible. Switch the dock 4X. Yeah, who knows? So is there anything else that we should talk about? Any questions? I know you guys have been talking throughout the chat, throughout the podcast, but ask any questions that you want us to talk about. Brandon, is there anything else you want to touch on as we, I guess, end the show? Lost for words.
There was something that I forgot it. I think it had to do with Switch sales in Japan.
I know they're doing really well.
They are. They're doing consistently better than PlayStation.
Yeah.
I don't remember. It was something. It probably wasn't that important. But
oh, well, you know what? There is something we didn't touch on. Super Mario Odyssey.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, Tossme brought up SNES pre-orders, SNES pre-orders. The only thing I can say about SNES pre-orders is that they waited like 2 months for me to forget about pre-orders, even though I was waiting for like a month and a half for them. And once they were announced, a day later I went to GameStop and it was too late to get any.
Yeah, I'm not getting one of those. I really want one, but there's no way.
I'm gonna have to get it like when it comes out, when it launches, or just look for it after the fact. I hope so. Supposedly Nintendo is gonna do a better job with them. We'll see. I'll let you guys know because I'm gonna be hunting for one. But I do want to talk about Mario Odyssey. I don't want to spoil anyone, but apparently we've already discovered 10 worlds in Mario Odyssey, and there could be more. And a lot of them seem really cool. We're gonna even get to visit the Mushroom Kingdom. And Mario Odyssey is coming out in October. We're in September, everyone.
Dude, I know.
We're in September.
Do you remember the exact day in October? I think it was like...
I don't know.
I don't remember. What was the day? Somebody in the comments knows, I'm sure.
Probably like, before my birthday.
It's the 21st. How could you forget to my Odyssey's date? Like, shut up.
They probably want it out for before Black Friday. Or Black Friday. Oh, dude,
27th.
That would be crazy to do Mario Odyssey. It's gonna come out like a week before, I bet. Week before Black Friday. I'm looking it up right now.
They said when their major priority.
Looper's saying October 27th, so I guess it is Black Friday. Wow.
They might do a Black Friday bundle. Mario Odyssey and the Switch for only $300.
October 27, guys. That in case it's a point, it's October 27. That's 2 days before my birthday.
All the kingdoms we
just
know
saying.
of. Just what? Good. You want me to list? I have all the names of the kingdoms.
Halloween. Looper said Halloween is canceled this year because we're playing Mario.
Nice.
Yeah, it's funny. kind of
You want me to you want me to like list out all the names of the kingdoms we know so far?
Sure, yeah, go ahead.
All right, so we know of
Kingdoms.
the Metro Kingdom, the Sand Kingdom, the Wooded Kingdom, the Luncheon Kingdom, Cascade Kingdom, Seaside Kingdom, Cap Kingdom, Mushroom Kingdom, Snow Kingdom, and Lake Kingdom. So that's big variety of kingdoms right there.
Right, there could be more too. We don't know.
Yeah. They did show off in the trailer. There's like some kind of like one that looks like a moon.
Yeah.
Like, to me, it looked like a moon, and that's not listed anywhere on here as far as I can tell.
What? Go over the names again.
Metro, Sand, Wooded, Luncheon, Cascade, Seaside, Cap, Mushroom, Snow, Lake. I don't think any of those have anything to do with.
Okay, maybe maybe not.
Cascade would sound like waterfalls to me. I'm wondering if that's the kind of dinosaur waterfall-y.
Oh, that makes sense. That could be it.
Because the one they showed off in the first Mario Odyssey trailer with the dinosaur that had a lot of waterfalls and stuff. So that could be Cascade Kingdom.
Yeah, well, you know, I just think it's crazy. It's already here. It's so close.
I'm glad we know of 10 worlds. Because before we knew of like 4, and people were like, we don't know if there's even going to be any more than 4. And I was like, there's gotta be more than 4.
Yeah, that was just that's just something Game Explain suggested that I thought was really dumb, and
I was like, that's not gonna happen.
They were really dumb. They were dumb. That's just that they were dumb. They were dumb. Same way they were dumb for suggesting Final Fantasy 15 Pocket might come to the Switch. They're dumb. They don't get it.
It's not gonna happen. Why would that be a thing?
No, the problem is that some of these guys are so butthurt from the Wii U days that they just play down everything and just assume things are worse than they should realistically be. Like, it just... Yeah. So, I don't...
Yeah.
It's Mario Odyssey is going to be amazing. I can't wait for it. There's going to be a lot to talk about this game, and as we get closer, they're going to start showing off a lot more, so we're going to have a lot more discussions about Mario Odyssey. How will this fare against Breath of the Wild? Well, the truth is, we shouldn't compare them. They're going to be two amazing games in their own rights. And we're also going to get the DLC pack for Breath of the Wild as well. We're going to get Skyrim. We're going to get Xenoblade 2. This year, we still have so much more.
Oh my gosh.
We still have so much more.
I can't believe... Dude, have you seen the Gamescom footage for Xenoblade Chronicles 2?
I haven't. I already know I'm getting the game, so I'm not paying attention to the footage.
I mean, it's not
I could watch something. You could link me... I'll just look it up later.
The Gamescom thing is really nice because there's no spoilers. It is a new area, but they show like literally they show like this much of it, like barely anything. Right. But mostly they go really, really in depth on the battle mechanics, like super in depth, telling you like all about the new combos, the new ways arts work. Like they kind of spoke about it actually after watching that. I was like went back and watched the E3 one, and they touched on it, but most people didn't know what they were talking about, so it went like right over everyone's heads. They go like super in depth on Gamescom. So if you want to know how the game plays like really well, you gotta watch the Gamescom footage because there's like no spoilers in it like at all. They constantly are like, we don't want to spoil anything about this game, so there's like no spoilers. Unless you count the new area, but that's not a spoiler in my opinion. And they showed literally like barely any of it. So it's just really, really informative and really cool. And the area is super. It's like gorgeous, like it's stunning. So
yeah, it's so special because we're gonna be playing more Zelda this year. We're gonna be playing Xenoblade 2. We're gonna play Mario Odyssey. These are 3 AAA games. 3 games that we waited the entire Wii U life cycle to get.
These are best of system class games.
Right.
Like,
we're getting
this is game of the year class.
This is
game
first
of the
year for
system
Switch.
Class. Some of these are game of the decade class games. Like Breath of the Wild.
Well, Breath of the Wild is a game of 21st century class game.
Yeah. That's a game of game of all games.
Right, and the thing is, the Breath of the Wild experience isn't over yet. What is the next DLC gonna do? What are we gonna see? Like, it could like whatever Breath of the Wild is, this DLC could like complete it. You know what I mean? Like, it'll give us that extra whatever it is. It might be a Megaton. You know what I mean? Like, we don't know. We have no idea. And that thing's got to be almost done already. Here's the problem, because I want to play the Skyrim Switch as well, because it's been apparently such an amazing port. and it's gonna have Zelda content in it. And I'm gonna play the Breath of the Wild DLC, and I'm gonna play Mario Odyssey. I still have to get ARMS. There's gonna be a whole bunch of really good indie games coming. I'm gonna play NBA 2K. I'm gonna play Dragon Ball Xenoverse. I'm just gonna. There's just so much. And Xenoblade 2, like.
Yeah.
I need to be. If I'm not, I need to start getting paid to play these games because there's so much I want and need to play. It's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
This
Speaking of how well Skyrim ported to the Switch,
yeah,
I'd like to do like a little mini topic. Do you think you'll be playing more third-party games on the Switch or on other consoles? Because for me, I really bought the Switch for first-party games. Like I bought it for Xenoblade and Zelda and Mario. I didn't buy it for third-party. So anytime third-party comes out, I'm like, I have a really, really nice gaming PC. I mean, like, it's got a GTX 1066 gigabyte in here. I mean, it can run anything 1080p Ultra, and many games 1440p Ultra. So this thing is a beast. And I'm like, do I really want to go and play games on the handheld? And I don't get out much. I stay at my home all the time. I'm at home 95% of every day. Like, I'm always at home. And if I do get a job or something, I can't play Switch at work. So that's not really going to be anything.
There's 15 minutes. Those 15-minute breaks.
That OSHA mandated 15-minute break and play some Zelda. No, but I mean there's not much time I would ever need to play it in handheld. So why not buy it on my PC? And especially Steam sales are incredible. They had Skyrim remastered up for $20 for several days. I was gonna buy it and then I was broke. Can buy it, but
the Skyrim Switch has motion controls though, so you might want it for that, maybe.
Yeah,
so, I mean,
actually, I heard the motion controls were completely meteoric.
Right, yeah, this is to be expected.
Yeah, you know the word I'm trying to say.
Yeah, but my opinion on that is that it honestly depends on the person, right? So yeah, I'm a Nintendo fanboy, but I'm not gonna tell you to buy everything on Nintendo if it's not necessarily suited for you. For me. Right, I usually only invest in Nintendo systems, and there are third-party games that'll be easier for me to play on the go. So Skyrim, for example, I'm not going to have time to play that game on my television the entire time. I won't make money. I won't get out there. I won't do anything if I do that. But by it also being portable and being able to seamlessly transition between the two, and I take it out, for me, having games that are like that I can play in small spurts here and there, having it on the Switch is way better for me, and there are a few games that I would want to just focus on playing just at home. But I understand your point, Brandon. For those who are don't feel the need to play it at all on the go, if you want the best presentation possible, if you have a gaming PC that's a lot more powerful than the Switch and you can play a third-party game there, I mean, there's no reason to not do it. That makes a lot of sense. But that's also why the 4K dock. There's an audience for that. There's an audience for that because a lot of gamers who are on Nintendo. Yeah.
I'm just gonna buy if it's on the PC and the Switch. I'm gonna buy it on the PC. It's just how it's gonna go down. Especially since a lot of games are being charged at a premium on the Switch, which I understand why. It makes sense why they're doing it in some instances. Some reasons. Sometimes it's bullcrap, but sometimes it makes sense. But the benefits of the Switch are super good for a lot of people, but there's also a lot of people like me. I don't get out much. I play games at home. I play it on this TV right here I'm using right now, and nowhere else pretty much. Even if I can play it on the handheld, a lot of times I'm like, I don't want to compromise my experience, so I'll just wait and play it on the TV and do something else, something important.
Well, for the bigger games, I guess I understand your point. But if you get that 4K dock, you can get the best of both worlds, right?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. If the 4K dock came out, I'd buy it, assuming no money problems, of course.
Right.
It's mine now. I'd stand in line for that thing, and I'd buy it day one. I'd probably pre-order 2 of them, to be honest.
I just want to point out this random thing. We know that the Switch is capable of 4K streaming already. Right now, as it is, it's capable of 4K streaming. What does that mean? Well, I guess technically if you have Netflix or something, you could stream in 4K. But I also think it suggests that the Switch is already programmed in a way where a transition to 4K with a more powerful dock is a lot more feasible. That's just my own speculation on that. Brandon, do you agree with me there?
The CPU and the Switch is super good. it's better than the ones in the PS4 and Xbox One right now. Like, it is an exceptionally good gaming CPU. So
You don't hear many
as far
people
as
say
that
that.
kind of stuff, you're not gonna hear people say that, but it's totally true. Like,
Right.
it's absolutely phenomenal. It's one of the, it's super super good. So it is good enough to do 4K streaming. So you wouldn't really have to upgrade the CPU that much, or if even at all, to do 4K gaming. So it could be a pretty easy transition, just mainly a CPU help instead of, you know, because otherwise they'd have to do like mainly a GPU help instead of a GPU and CPU. Although I think they might want to put some more RAM, maybe 2 more extra gigs of RAM if they're going to do 4K.
Yeah, no, I think it has to come with extra RAM. I think some of our viewers may not even understand what we're talking about right now. I don't want necessarily want to bog them down with the specifics. Just like, yeah, I mean, the thing is, nowadays GPUs usually do the bulk of the work, right? So the CPU as it is going to be fine, and we just throw in some RAM, throw in a GPU into a dock. I'm really simplifying how it all works. It's a lot more complicated than that, right? But basically that's how it would work, and they may be able to get a 4K dock sort of situation working. But the only reason I brought it up is that we know that Switch is already capable of 4K streaming. So do you think the fact that that's already there, that lends more credence to the idea that we'll be seeing a 4K dock in the future?
As far as power goes, yeah, definitely. I mean,
I'm just saying
the
that
jump between.
Do you think it's likely, right, when you consider the fact that the Switch already has some 4K abilities?
Yes, I do. Especially, I mean, that's mostly for 4K streaming and stuff. That's mostly CPU side. That's mostly the CPU side, and the CPU is on par, if not better, than the ones in the Xbox One, the PS4, and they didn't change it for the 4K Xbox. The only thing they did is slightly overclock it. It's slightly overclocked. Otherwise, it's the exact same CPU. So if that can work on a beast of a console, the most powerful console ever made console, the Switch is going to do fine.
Right.
With whatever form of 4K.
And especially if it's not really doing 4K, it's just focusing on 1440p 60 FPS, which I think would be way better. If you get a console that focuses on making all their games run at a smooth 60 FPS, bro.
I'd much rather have 1440p 60 on all games instead of 4K 30.
Right.
Because the difference isn't that huge, and the difference between 30 and 60 is ginormous.
Yeah. Also, Josh, I did not hear about Mario not being a plumber now.
I did hear about that. Apparently, he's not a plumber. I didn't read the whole story, but I saw a headline. Apparently, Mario is no longer.
Did that come out today?
Yeah.
Okay, that's why I was driving today. I didn't really look at Twitter at all. That's interesting. Mario not being a plumber anymore. Well, he's a lot of things in Mario Odyssey, so I think ultimately he is the hero for Princess Peach. So you know, he's the guy who saves the day, and he's the jump
I think
man.
he goes down far too many pipes to not still be considered a plumber. I mean, come on.
Maybe he just doesn't. Maybe he doesn't do plumbing for money. He just does it as a hobby.
He does it for transportation. Duh.
Yeah. Bless me. Thanks. Yeah. So, is there? I guess are we done for the night? I'm not sure if there's anything else to talk about. I mean, we covered a lot of broad. You know, we touched upon many things, and I expect that the information is just going to keep on coming. I think things are going to start wrapping up again. I think things were kind of slow the last few weeks because it was like that period in between E3 and the holiday season where things get really slow.
Yeah.
But now things are starting to ramp up again, as we've talked about so many things already, and it's just going to keep coming. Now, the rumors about what Sony's going to talk about during their conference, and then the supposed big announcement Nintendo's going to have after that, you know, the rumors are going to be coming. You know, I think what me and Brian talked about is probably going to be the case, but you never really know with Nintendo. Yeah. So, we'll see. Alright, so, yeah, I guess we're done, right? Thank you, everyone, for watching. Brandon, do you have any final thoughts or goodbyes you want to wish to the viewers?
Just to sum up all my thoughts, I guess, in the last topics we were talking about, I really hope Sony does push Nintendo to be the best they can be.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of what they've been having to do, bouncing off the Wii U, noticing that people aren't going to take their bullcrap anymore. They aren't going to deal with that. And putting even more pressure, making it, because Nintendo's already made so many strides with the Switch, making even more by being forced by Sony could be really good. Plus, Sony's just a really good company in general. They make really good content. So having two exceptionally good competing brands again, especially since Xbox has kind of just been falling by the wayside lately, having Microsoft or having Sony and Nintendo do that'd be really good. But yeah, I really hope that happens.
Yeah, we're 100% in agreement, Brandon. We are 100% in agreement with Brandon. In fact, I think Microsoft is moving towards a streaming sort of service or platform service. We may not see another Xbox after this.
I think they're going to move to PC. Just stick to their Windows.
Who knows?
Store.
Maybe they'll start using Xbox Live as a subscription service, and maybe you can use that on Nintendo systems. That'd be really cool,
That's
right?
what people have been saying. I'd actually really like that.
Yeah, maybe that's their big announcement. Maybe Nintendo is canning their entire online setup after the whole Splatoon 2 debacle. They're like, yo, Microsoft, give us Xbox Live. We'll let you get 50% of the profit. Who knows? That might be it. Maybe. Who knows? But, you know, I think Nintendo and Sony competing against each other like the way they're starting to do now is great. And Nintendo is, I believe, at the best they've ever been. We're going to start... I mean, we got Zelda, we got Mario, we got Xenoblade. We're getting third-party support. We're getting Metroid and Pokemon really soon, and a lot of other games. This is a really special time to be a Nintendo fan, or a gamer in general. So, there's a lot to be excited about. So, don't listen to the trolls, everyone. Just enjoy what we're getting, because it's all really, really awesome. Alright, so...
True.
Alright, guys. Thanks for watching, everyone. Have a fantastic night. Now I'm ending the stream. Okay, bye.